Okay, welcome to the last couple of videos. This one I'm going to talk about something called break-even point. So the next couple of videos are going to be about revenue management. So how do we decide what decisions to make? And one of the really interesting tools that I've used in the past is called a break-even point. I got a picture of a graph here. The first slide is just going to explain what the axes are. I'm going to show you the slide here. So along the bottom here, we've got number of guests. My pen working here. We've got number of guests, 0, 500, 1,000, 1,500. And then going up the column here, it's all a range of thousands of dollars, right? So a couple of things on here. This line going across here in blue that I'm tracing over, that's our fixed cost. So if you remember back, our fixed costs were things that didn't change from month to month. No matter how many customers came in, we had a fixed cost for rent, occupancy cost, things that we couldn't change, right? So that's our total cost. So we need to, in this example here, we need to bring in $10,000 whether we have 0 customers or not, right here, right? So baseline, $10,000 just to open the door, not a single customer in. So right off the bat, if we don't have any customers at 0 here, we don't have any sales, right? That's this other part right here. So as we start having customers come in, our sales start going up, right? This line here, that's our sales, right? This other line here, starting at our fixed cost, is our total cost. So now this is where we start adding in all our variable costs, our food costs, our labor costs, our utilities, our repairs and maintenance. Those start off at that 10,000 here and work their way up along this red line going up. And you'll notice there's a point here where our sales start to exceed our total costs, because this red line is our fixed cost plus our variable cost, right? So this point right here is called our break-even point. That's the point at which we are not making any money, but we're not losing any money either, right? So why is that point important? Well, we want to be somewhere in this area here, right? Any of this wedge here, we're selling more than we're actually using for dollars, right? So we want our revenue and cost, we want to be somewhere in between here. If we're down in anywhere in here, we're losing money, right? So minimum, we need to have, what is that going to be? About, say, 700 customers to generate $20,000 or just under $20,000 in revenue to break even. We're not losing any money. We're not gaining any money, right? We want to make sure we've got in here. So the thing with this graph is, if we decide to change how we operate, for example, we decide that we're going to increase our sales, right? So this blue line here, we're going to raise our prices, right? So that might change this sales line into steeper point, right? If we can control our costs, now we've moved our break-even point back, right? So depending on how we do that, we have to remember that sometimes if we just raise our price, maybe that's going to drop our customer count. But we can hit our break-even point with less customers now, right? And my pen stopped working. Great technology. There we go. Right? So you can see, because we moved that break-even point back, we did it with less customers, but we raised our prices, right? We could also lower our, let's erase this. We could try and lower our cost of sales, right? Down here, and look, we've got our break-even point even lower, right? So anytime we try and adjust something, we could move that break-even point lower, and then we can increase this gap in here. The bigger the gap in here, the more profit we're making. That's the profit in here, right? So, a couple of things we need to remember, right? Depending on what we do, if we raise prices, we're probably going to lose customers. But are we going to lose enough that it's going to affect our sales? Don't know. That's something you have to analyze, right? The other thing we can do with break-even point is we can use it to decide whether or not we can do a capital expenditure, right? How much increase in sales we need to do to generate our revenue enough to break even, right? So say we're going to buy a stove for, say, $10,000, right? So how much more money do we have to increase our sales line here by to pay for that $10,000 stove? Not $10,000. We need to increase this by a lot more than $10,000 because our profit margin on this is probably only 5%, right? So if we increased our sales by $10,000, we'd only end up getting 0.05, $500 towards our new stove, right? We need to increase our sales a lot more to generate enough money to pay for that $10,000 increased expenditure. So you can use break-even point to look at your business as a whole, but you can also use it to see if how much you would need to increase your sales or decrease your costs by in order to pay for a new piece of equipment quickly, right? Or do a special function or a special promotion, right? What the costs are going to do with it, right? So by estimating the change in number of customers and sales dollars, managers can decide whether a change to pricing or costs would generate more profit or less profit. In business volume increases enough, lowering prices can actually increase profit. So it's a good way to analyze your business and know what a change is going to do to your business at all. If you increase your prices, what's going to happen? If you lower your prices, what's going to happen, right? If you lower your prices, you could increase the number of customers, thereby increasing your sales, right? But your costs might go up. So that might move that break-even point backwards and forwards. Now, in your textbook, there's going to be math on how to calculate that. You do not need to know how to calculate that at this point in your career. I used it once I became a manager, a food and beverage manager. Save your textbook, save that formula and that explanation of how to do it, because it will come in handy one day. But for right now, you just need to understand the concept of break-even point and how making changes to the business, even if you want to increase your cost of sales, then you could potentially increase the number of customers coming in, increasing your revenue, right? Or moving that break-even point line.